Fani Willis and her team have been investigating the attempt by President Trump and his allies to reverse his defeat in Georgia pretty much since February 2021, just a few weeks after Trump placed that famous call to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
That call, I think, sort of metaphorically perked up her ears, and she announced that she would investigate just a couple of weeks later. We know that it is a sweeping investigation. 2.5 years is a long time. It's a smart bet at this point, although they have not said so officially, that the charges that we're going to see in Atlanta are going to be racketeering charges, which is a really complex legal tool. It's similar to conspiracy, but whereas conspiracy is a charge of two or more people getting together to plan a crime, a racketeering enterprise is two or more crimes. So and you can even have a conspiracy to commit racketeering, which would be two or more people planning a criminal enterprise of more than one crime. And that's probably what we're going to see here. And we're probably going to see multiple defendants. I mean, there's been speculation of more than a dozen defendants. Certainly we anticipate the former president, Donald Trump, being the central figure of such an indictment. But all around him are other people who participated in the effort to overturn the results, including Rudy Giuliani, lawyer John Eastman, lawyer Ken Chesebro, lawyer Jeffrey Clark, who was at the time in the Justice Department. We also believe that the meeting of the Georgia electors for Trump in Atlanta on December 14, 2020, are a target. That action is a target of this investigation. We also believe that the attempt to break into election equipment in rural Coffee County, Georgia, is a piece of this investigation. There are some details that we do know that give us a little bit of a breadcrumb trail about what Fani Willis and her office have been looking at. For instance, of the 16 electors who met and voted for Trump on December 14th, 2020, we know that all but 3 of them have been granted some form of immunity. So who are the 3 that were not? One is David Schaefer, the former chairman of the Republican Party, and he was also the person who chaired the elector meeting that day and helped organize it. One is Sean Still. He's currently a state senator, but at the time he was the state GOP finance chair, and he was letting the electors into the room and barring the media from the room initially. And then a third is a woman named Kathy Latham. We do not believe that she is targeted because of her role as a rank-and-file elector. She also happens to have been the chairwoman of the Coffee County Republican Party, where that attempted breach of equipment occurred on January 7th, 2021. And we have reason to believe that the reason she was not granted immunity was not because she's being targeted for her role as an elector, but for her role allegedly facilitating the attempted breach in Coffee County. There's one other series of events that I suspect will figure in an indictment in Fulton County, and that is the effort led by Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman to talk to state lawmakers in open hearings in December of 2020 and persuade them that vast amounts of fraud had happened and that they needed to appoint Trump electors in order to have this competing slate of electors for the joint session of Congress to decide on. And one of the key moments in those hearings that Rudy Giuliani participated in was the showing of some surveillance video from the facility in Atlanta, Georgia, where Fulton County ballots were being counted. It's a facility called the State Farm Arena, and it's in Atlanta. And the surveillance video showed the counting happening. And they showed a video in one of these hearings that was doctored, basically. And what they were alleging was that these 2 election workers, a mother and daughter, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, had pulled suitcases full of ballots out from under a tablecloth over a banquet table and run them secretly through these tabulation machines, and had done so multiple times so that Biden ballots were getting counted multiple times. In fact, what had happened is that the county election officials had said, let's call it for a night, we'll continue our work in the morning, and they packed everything up. Those were not suitcases, they were official, secure election ballot boxes for storage. And then Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, said, no, you're not stopping, keep going, we need to count this result, we need to keep going. So they reversed themselves at the instruction of the Secretary of State's office, pulled the ballots back out, and got set up again and resumed their work. And Gabe Sterling, one of Brad Raffensperger's top deputies, walked the public through this with the full surveillance video.
What it actually showed was Fulton County election workers engaging in normal ballot processing.
So what I think that whole episode reveals is potentially an opportunity to accuse Giuliani of lying about the fraud, and that would be a basis for a charge of attempting to defraud Georgia voters.